Alright, this is a little extra, something that I wanted to demonstrate for everyone, but using a tire machine, this is covered in our suspension and tires class. It's not something we do in Auto 100, but we do have this equipment at Saddleback College. It's very cost saving to change your own tires when you buy new tires and balance them and mount them yourself. So I thought I'd just give you a quick run through so you can see how this machine operates. It's a fun one to work, and if you continue on in the suspension and tires class, you'll be using this piece of equipment. Okay, first things first, proper PPE. We've got to make sure we have our safety glasses on. We're going to start by removing this valve core out of the valve stem with our valve core removal tool, a little slot. This will deflate the tire quickly and could shoot the valve core in your face, so make sure we have our PPE. Going to keep some pressure on it so I can capture the little core and keep it from shooting across the shop. So that's going to take all the tire air pressure out of the tires. Okay, so here's our little valve core that came out. Kind of like a reverse screwdriver. And you've all seen the valve core before, because it's that little pin that's in the middle of the valve stem. Fireworks show. We're going to let the tire finish deflating. So that little pin down in there is the valve core we removed. Okay, now that I got the air out of the tire, we're going to move down to the bead breaker. And with the bead breaker, we're going to break the beads away from the wheel where they snapped into place to hold the air pressure. So that's done down here with this spade tool. I'm going to bring the tire down. I'm going to get the spade tool right behind our wheel in the bead of the tire. I'm going to keep the tire flat against the machine here. Okay, and I control it with this pedal over here. Hold it down to bring the spade in. There's one. We're going to flip it 180 degrees. And hit it one more time. Another safety factor, we want to make sure we have the valve stem at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock so that we don't scrape the TPMS sensor with this blade and break it. Spin the tire, same thing on the other side, 2 times. Now we're ready to clamp to the table. Okay, so now you can see we've broken the bead away from the tire, or away from the wheel. Now we can go ahead and proceed with removing the beads one at a time. Clamp it down to the table. Okay, I've now got it clamped to the table. I can now bring our mounting, demounting head down into our, position it on the wheel. Lock it into position. Okay, this is often referred to as the duck. As you can see, it looks a lot like a duck. So, for example, removing the tire, I'm going to take our tire iron tool. And I'm going to get it right here on the duck beak for our first step. So we're going to go over the duck head to remove tires, and then reverse when we install our new tires. We're going to go over the duck tail. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we're referring to animals on our tire machine. Okay, I'm going to get our tire iron inside the tire on the duck beak, just like that. On the opposite side, I need to push the bead down to the drop center so I can pry this up over the duck head. I'll push with some gentle pressure here. I'm going to pry down with the pry bar, and we're now in position to run our first bead off by rotating the table. Okay, we're going to repeat the same process with the lower bead. We need to get the pry bar down on the beak and all the way out the bottom side of the tire. Once it's sticking out the bottom side of the tire, we need to lift up on this side of the tire while prying. So you can either do that with your back and pry and twist, or we can bring in some of our advanced tools. So I'm bringing in the lifting disc down here, which is going to provide some lifting pressure on our tire while I pry with the other side. Same thing as before, rotate the table. Pull the bar out when it gets loose. There's our second bead. Get rid of our old tire. Pretend like this is the new tire. On our pretend brand new tire here, I'm going to lube up the beads. This is going to help make sure they don't get caught and tear. Help them slide over the wheel when we install them. Okay, you want to make sure your wheel is nice and clean, especially around our bead seating areas where we don't want any air leaks. Once we're lubricated up, we can check to make sure we don't have any directional marks, outside, inside, etc. If we had a mark that said outside, we want to make sure we position the tire correctly. Does it look yummy? No. So when we were moving the tire, we were going over the duck head. When we install the tire, we're going to go over the duck tail. I'm going to slide that into position and then show you what it looks like. Now we have the tire over the tail and going under the head. Kind of see it back here. It's over the tail. Okay, at this point the first bead's very easy. We're just going to make the tire ride with the wheel. And it'll drop right on. And now we're going to position this tire again over the tail while keeping it under the head. Okay, we do have some tools that we're going to bring over here to help assist with this process, so I'm going to set those up and then we will run it. So the two bead assist tools I'm going to bring into play, one is the swing arm. It's going to rotate with the tire when we run it. And the other one is the roller, which is going to stay stationary right here and roll. Make sure that that tire bead or the sidewall is staying under the duck head. Okay. Let's get that into position. Bring my swing arm in. Put a little bit of pressure on it. And now we're ready to roll. You want to run it?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you what to do. Come over here.
So not like run the tire, just...
You want to run the last step? All you got to do is hold this pedal down. It's going to move this whole thing over here. So we're going to rotate the table, and the whole thing's going to start setting the bead and make sure that we're in the drop center the entire time, so we don't run the risk of tearing our tire bead. Yep, hit it. Yeah, hold it down. Stop. Perfect. Okay, so now we are back to where we started. We're on the table, the beads are broken, but the tire is installed on the wheel. So what we're really concerned about is when that last part of the tire is getting pulled over here, that the other side of the tire is staying down in the drop center. So we have some space for that tire to slide over. We're now going to get the tower out of the way. Final step here is going to be to set the beads of the tire, blast them into place with compressed air, and then install the valve core, get the tire to the correct pressure. We're going to do that with our inflation hose. We want to make sure the valve core is still out so we can get as much air into the tire as possible. This has two functions. It's going to inflate the tire through the inflation hose. But we also have a bead blaster that is down below, firing air up into the tire to try and get some more air pressure in there. And that sounds like this. There. So ideally what we want to go for is a blast or two with the bead blaster, and then continuous pressure inflating after that. And we should see our sidewalls snap into place and start inflating with air. Here we go. Fire in the hole. Keep our fingers clear. There goes our sidewall. Okay, now we're going to stop. We want to make sure that we don't overpressure the tire. We don't take the tire to a higher pressure than it should be. So we do a quick check, and then I'll take this up to its correct 35 psi. Okay. At that point, I'm going to get my valve core ready. I'm going to pull the hose and try and get the core in there as quickly as possible. Gently screw it down into place. Don't over tighten it. It's installed. Now I'm going to do a final pressure check. We lost some air pressure there, so get it to its correct tire pressure. See how much slower it fills up once the valve core is in. That's why you want to get it as close as possible before you install that. Save you some time. Okay. Tire's at its correct pressure. It's been mounted. It's now time to take it to the balancer, install weights where we need to, balance it, and it can go on the vehicle. So again, not part of our curriculum in Auto 100, but a very, very valuable and functional tool. It's a fun one to use. So that will be in future wheel and tire classes if you continue on with that.